By the early Carboniferous period, the earliest amniotes had evolved, and the skull was modified. The frontal bone became larger and part of the orbit. The parietal bone was larger. The supraoccipital bone became larger in the occipital region, while the tabular, postorbital, and supratemporal bones became smaller. In the temporal region, the jugular foramen now allowed the passage of cranial nerves 9, 10, and 11. Soon after the earliest amniotes, the stapes would no longer be a supporting element of the skull. The earliest reptiles were anapsids. They did not have a temporal fenestra, an opening in the temporal region of the skull, to allow jaw muscles, which attach to the lower jaw, to pass through the opening, making them longer and thus providing a more powerful bite. Turtles are the only living anapsids, having evolved from anapsid parasaurs. The earliest turtles were transitional forms with a number of primitive features, including teeth. Although modern turtles can vary from each other, the typical turtle skull retains ancestral bones, which are homologous to many of the bones which compose the human skull. The roof of the cranium is composed of frontal, parietal, and postparietal bones. There are additional bones in the vicinity of the eye, like the prefrontal and postorbital bones, which are retained from the early amniotes, although they have been lost in the mammalian lineage. The jugal bone, the homologue of the human zygomatic bone, and the squamosal bone, which is part of the mammalian temporal bone. These are both visible from the lateral view. The jaws are composed of the maxillary bones and premaxillary bones, although they no longer bear teeth. Other bones include the nasal bones in the nasal region, the vomer dividing the nasal cavity, the quadrate bone forming the upper portion of the quadrate articular jaw joint, typical of reptiles and others. And so the turtle skull not only includes the typical amniote bones inherited from the earliest amniote ancestors, but also homologues to many of the bones of the mammalian and human skulls.